Hey guys, Vega here with some huge Katana Zero DLC news. Yesterday I was scrolling through Reddit, doing my best to avoid all the doom and gloom, and stumbled upon a post by the user JustOur1256 in the Katana Zero Reddit that was simply spamming the words tomorrow. As I'm a regular lurker on the Silksong subreddit, I knew better and carried on about my day, thinking nothing of it. To my surprise, I woke up this morning to a few new messages on my Discord, and oh my god, it was real. Somehow, this guy knew. There was a new Katana Zero DLC trailer, and it looks amazing. Let's take a look at it now, and then once we're all done, we'll go through and note all the little details and do our best to break it down. And how good was that? Now that we've seen the trailer in its entirety, let's watch it a bit slower and talk about all the new details and implications. Straight away we can see there are 6 icons on a door. It's pretty hard to make out what these symbols are. They could potentially represent 6 of the 7 angels in the Book of Revelations. Each angel sounds a different trumpet, which triggers an apocalyptic event. 0 in this case would represent the 7th angel, whose trumpet brings on final judgment. I'm not well versed in this topic, so apologies if I've gotten any of this wrong, but if you've seen a biblically accurate angel, this might explain why these pictures are so hard to make out. Also, and we're jumping ahead a bit here, but later on we literally see the words 7th angel on screen, followed by a U with a question mark, and it's you. I wouldn't be surprised if this turns out completely wrong, but currently this is my best theory. Either way, whatever's behind those doors sounds pretty horrifying, and can't represent anything good. The next scene of note, we have this riot shield dude asking what we've done. Now, the normal part of me says he's just referring to all the dead bodies, but the tinfoil hat version of me thinks that Zero has set something terrible in motion by his actions, which supports our previous statement about Zero bringing on essentially the end times. Here we can see a brand new enemy. It's not really clear to me if this behaves differently to the flying drones we see in the base game or if it's just a reskin. Either way, it looks pretty cool. Here's a room we've seen before in the teaser. It's cool to note that the water reacts to our movements, and there's also a water level indicator, which makes me wonder if there's a level gimmick where the water level will be rising. The next scene, we're in an area that seems focused on plant life. Another new enemy is seen here, again a turret, which appears to fire your standard bullets. We can also see the gravity weapon that holds and redirects projectiles, which has some updated effects. And finally, the most eye-catching part of this scene is the purple pulse that makes Zero briefly vanish and leaves enemies with a strange static effect. Initially, I thought this was triggered by getting close to the crazy-looking tree, but on further inspection, the effect seems to come from picking up this strange object. This device makes the user completely invisible for a set amount of time. This was confirmed by one of the artists, Dave, who worked on the game on the Discord. Interestingly enough, the masked men also seem to cause a purple flash as they appear, which means there is a very small chance they could actually be real and using this technology to mess with Zero. Up next we have this very ominous "found you" message, which gives me the impression some unnatural entity has found Zero, but there isn't really any solid evidence of who or what exactly has found him. We then have a few messages come up in a similar style saying "it's you," which we've covered in the whole 7th angel theory part, but again, who really knows? Up next is an underwater section. This is probably the same facility that is shown as Zero sinks into the water. There's also a person swimming outside the glass, but I'm not sure what that really means. And finally, we can see the new turret's ability to aim in an upwards direction. Here we can see another null which has previously been teased. They seem to be on a mission in the past in what I think is the Chromag War. Here we can see a big pyramid area with what looks like a big vault behind it. And moving on, we see it again in the background. Even the platform we were just walking on is present. This makes me think the vaults are filled with either null soldiers or different experiments, all stored with cryostasis pods. Each tank has a designation, being either A, B, or C, and then a number. I was hoping this would correlate to alpha nulls, beta nulls, and gamma nulls, but obviously it's a C and not a G unless they're using a really unclear font. So that theory is probably out. Either way, there's a lot of them, and it begs the question, what are they for? Could it be they're just being stored so they don't die of Chronos withdrawal? Are they being held until an army is needed? Or, and don your tinfoil hats with me, are they the very source of Chronos and are being kept alive to harvest it? Well, who knows? Another character we've seen in the teaser, fingers crossed we'll be able to play him. Here we can see a weird vision that seems to tell some kind of story or prophecy. It's pretty hard to make out, but the one thing you can see is the pyramid we saw earlier, making me believe it's going to be pretty significant to the story. Here we can see Zero drowning and then being swallowed by a giant leviathan. Now, what does this mean? Well, if you think back to the base game, the little girl has two toys, a behemoth and a leviathan. Behemoth emits a red glow when near the leviathan toy, similar to the glow Zero sword emitted when close to 15. So if 0 represents the behemoth and 15 the leviathan, I guess this implies 15 is going to go all cannibal and eat 0 at some point. Yeah, I don't know on this one. Alternatively, Leviathan and Behemoth could represent the two masked men, as they share similar colour schemes. This would mean Zero's being swallowed by the silver mask of death, aka tragedy. Either way, it's all very abstract, and I honestly have no idea if I'm reading into it too much. And then we finish off with this beautiful new art for the DLC, which looks to be more themed on the Chromag War of the past. This is my best interpretation of everything, and I encourage you to comment your own theories below, as well as anything you may have noticed you think I've missed. Particularly all the biblical stuff, as I'm no expert on the topic and there's so much to know that I'm sure someone could interpret it a lot better than I have. Either way, thanks for watching, and please go check out my indie battle videos that feature Katana Zero if you haven't already. I put a ton of work into those videos making the animations and would really appreciate it. Anyways, later guys.